Hi and welcome to a Spider-Man set review. Or well, it's not the entire set, it's a small portion of it. We've received a few new cards, so yeah, let's get cooking. However, we are not going to go over all of them, as most, close to all, are not cEDH worthy to talk about. Let's skip this one. So first one, real out, is Turtles Forever. Search your library and or outside the game for exactly 4 legendary creature cards you own with different names, reveal those cards and opponent choose 2 of them, put those chosen cards into your hand and the rest into your library. So you aren't actually legally allowed to use the outside of the game part in cEDH. In casual Commander you could probably do that, depending on your playgroup and such, but outside the game is limited to a sideboard, which means that in a cEDH setting, or actually cEDH tournaments, you're not allowed to actually use the outside of the game, because cEDH tournament doesn't have an outside of the game, as it doesn't have a sideboard. In a cEDH game in general, you're just sitting on a kitchen table with your friends, this works. This is one of those I don't really like that they print these kinds of cards sometimes, the outside of the game concept that is, because it becomes something of a discussion interpretation. Like, I've played outside of the game collect cards, like cards that go out of the game and grab cards I own from my collection and bring them into the game inside Commander. And people's reaction to that differ quite a lot. And it's not great when I like, and I think we need to discuss a lot of stuff together in general, but I don't like when a card demands it, so to say. However, this still works in the concept that you can search your own libraries, so you're fine, like the card actually does something. And it's not bad. There's actually a room for this inside builds that play Drevi and Emil and Gaia's Cradle. For example, Thrasius Triton Hero can generate infinite mana with Drevi, Emil and Gaia's Cradle, and so can Ceesay. So yeah, this is a good tutor, especially for those Thrasius decks that don't have access to black, meaning you need more tutors. On the other hand, you already have a lot of green tutors that search for creatures, like that shared summons, 5 mana, instant, search for 2 creatures, put them into hand directly. And this is like giving you 2 weaker versions, so in the end, I don't think this is going to see much action, because like the effect is good, but there are already better cards that are doing the exact same thing, but better. Leonardo, Worldly Warrior. Affinity, like, cost 1 less for each creature you control. Affinity for creatures, you could say. Double strike 5/5. You could pay theoretically 1 white mana for this guy. Kinda cool, but no, not great for competitive formats. Or, well, competitive 1v1 Commander, this would be great, but multiplayer, not so good. We already play a 1 white mana flying 5/5 with lifelink, and that card is bad. Leonardo the Balance. Now, he's 5-color identity, because he has all 5 color pips on his card on the activations. So this is a 4 mana 3/3 mutant ninja turtle. Whenever a token you control enters, you need to put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Do this only once each turn. So it's something of like an overrun concept. He buffs your entire army. And for all 5 mana, creatures you control gain menace, trample, lifelink and until of turn. Then he has partner. Character selects. And I think that the new partner, the partner mechanic is going to pop up quite frequently, but they're going to give a side note like they do here, character select, similar to how they made backgrounds and friends forever, so that certain commanders can only partner with another certain group of commanders, so they don't like open it to the entire public, so to say, which I think is kinda good, but you could discuss, should partner really exist inside this format to begin with. However, his evaluation basically comes down to, he gives you access to all 5 color identities, and you could have a partner that is like really good, but monocolor, and now you get access to all 5 colors. So Leonardo the Balance might actually be really good, except that you will never gonna cast him from the command zone, unless the game just doesn't end for you. Like, If you're able to acquire a lot of stacked creatures and you're being locked out from winning your own game with your own combo, then yeah, you can cast the guy and start to overrun your opponent and yeah, win the game as magic was intended. This Leonardo is a bit interesting though. So 4 mana, again, mono white and no extra colors. No partner, so he's the only thing you get. Double strike. During your turn, you may cast spells with power or toughness 1 or less from your graveyard. If you cast a spell this way, that creature enters with a finality counter on it. So you can't loop. There are some combos where you can sit and loop a creature from the graveyard infinitely. This won't work because the finality counter makes it impossible. However, there's like, yeah, you can replay Draenei Magistrate, because Draenei Magistrate has a power of 1. You can rebuild Esper Sentinel. However, mono white is just so extremely lacking that in the end, yeah, sure, you have a super small rebuilding tiny value engine, but honestly, not good enough. Krang Mastermind is, on the other hand, I'm not gonna say extremely good, but is showcasing some very big potential. So it's double blue and 6, but affinity for artifacts. So it costs 1 less to cast for each artifact you control. So it could basically cost just 2 blue mana. When Krang enters, if you have fewer than 4 cards in hand, draw cards equal to the difference. So you're drawing up to 4 cards. Okay, that's actually great. So if you're hellbent, you have no cards left in hand, you're going up to 4. So for 2 blue mana, you could potentially be drawing 4 cards. And then he gets +1 attack power for each artifact you control. I don't think this should be played as a commander, but I do think that you could have it inside some mono blue, or not only mono blue, but heavy artifact decks could utilize this. I don't think it's going to be an auto include. I think it's going to be one of those burst, very good synergy cards for some commanders. So I wouldn't be surprised that this accidentally could pop up in a cEDH game here and there. Then we have mono blue April O'Neil Hacktivist. I love the word hacktivist. I'm a good guy, I promise. I'm doing things for the greater good. I might be I might be a criminal, but I'm a good criminal. I really like the Dungeons and Dragons alignment concept. I think she becomes chaotic good. That's when you're breaking the law, but you're a good person. Yeah, basically every vigilante you could think of. However, at the beginning of your end step, draw a card for each card type among spells you've cast this turn. So you want to cast things like enchantment, artifact, creature, instant sorcery, planeswalker if you could squeeze that in too, and then you just draw a whole bunch of cards. So the entire concept would be basically that you're playing a huge card type variety with a very low CMC cost in general, so that you're digging through your deck very efficient. Like you want to ritual her out as fast as you can and then start casting spells. She's actually going to count herself, by the way. The turn you cast her, it actually counts as you have casted a creature this turn. You don't draw cards at the beginning of your opponent's end step, so counterspelling your own opponent's spells won't do anything, but instant speed, you have a Brainstorm, Opt. Opt is also an instant, so there are a few instants that you can cast during your own turn to increase the card draw power from her. And then you actually have a perfect combo finish for this, called Emrakul at the Promised End, which is 13 CMC Emrakul that costs 1 less for each card type in your graveyard. She's going to fuel that card type variety quite heavily and eventually even draw into the Emrakul potentially. And then when you cast Emrakul, you steal an opponent's turn, and with that you can come off and win with their win con. For example, if they're trying to win with an Unwall Breach, you can cast the Breach, cast Lion's Diamond, cast Brain Freeze, and mill out everyone, excluding yourself. Basically making the person perform seppuku while killing all of your other 2 opponents. The problem is mono blue. If this had other colors, we would be talking. Like, there is honestly, in my opinion, a huge potential for her. The problem is that mono blue and 4 mana is a little bit expensive. The one color I would love to have on this is either green or black, so you can tutor for that Emrakul. Preferably black, because then you could add Fasa's Consult to this commander as well as an alternative win con. Let me actually rephrase that. Fasa's Consult will be the main win con, Emrakul would be the alternative win con. Regardless, the card drawing power on this commander is potentially good. I'm not so certain that you're gonna play her inside the 99 of anything, but it wouldn't surprise me. In the end, I actually do think this is a viable cEDH commander. Not among the best. She's probably gonna be in like the middle ground, but I could see a world where people might bring her to a tournament. I wouldn't put her in like the recommended area, but yeah, she's probably okay. Then we're getting into more of these, I don't know, cool cards that are very expensive with high power and toughness that does nothing. More of these cards that does nothing. Or well, it draws 2 cards for 5 mana. Donatello the Brains. Now we're getting into those partner concepts. We did look at Leonardo that had 5 color identities to him, so you could partner this. So you could play this as your commander with 5 color identity, just saying. Now if one or more tokens would be created under your control, those tokens plus a mutagen token are created instead. A mutagen is a artifact token. For 1 colorless tap, put a +1/+1 counter on a creature. So that's bad. It does actually synergize with Leonardo the Balanced, because whenever a token you control enters, you may put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. So if you want to build this huge overrun concept, these two actually synergize. But in all honesty, that is not so good inside a cEDH format. Like an overrun game plan is usually very slow, especially this concept. If you truly want to overrun all of your opponents, the answer is Greater Hoof Behemoth. Done. Not this. You can do the exact same thing with Splinter the Mentor. So he's less in mana cost, only 2. Whenever Splinter or another non-token creature you control leaves the battlefield, create a mutagen token. And he is an alternative partner boss together with Leonardo the Balanced. So now a token you control enters, put a counter on every creature you control. And that means that whenever a creature leaves the battlefield, you put a +1/+1 counter on all of your creatures as that mutagen token just entered the battlefield. Honestly though, nah, nah. On the other hand, 5 color identities shouldn't be ignored. There are cEDH content creators that actually grab very casual 5 color decks and build them into turbo combo 5 colors, and they play matches and win just because 5 color identities are pretty good. Like, one thing about this format is that you can win the game without the need of your commander pretty easily, so that's a good thing. So you could play these two and go to a tournament and pretend you're a casual Yankee person that doesn't know what they're up to. And everyone will basically ignore you, saying, oh, you're just some random casual player that doesn't understand cEDH metagame. And then you surprise them with a Fasa's Consult out of nowhere. But in all honesty, this is not good. Or like, no. Casey Jones Yuri Rig Justicar, Human Berserker. I actually have no idea who this is in the lore. When Casey Jones enters, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal an artifact card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest at the bottom of your library in a random order. This is actually pretty good. Or, well, it's not great, but it's impulse on artifacts. It has haste, so you're getting the potential value the same turn you're casting it. And if it survives, you get an option to get the same value next turn again. And it's only 2 mana, so it's not like that expensive. If you're playing a very high artifact density deck, then the chance of this hitting some card draw for you is pretty okay. It's not drawing cards, it's theoretically better. Impulse is better than drawing a card because you look at the top 4 and you pick the best option. In this case, you're only getting the option to choose the best artifact option. If there's only artifacts on top of, if there's only one artifact on top of all your 4 options, then yeah, that's it. But it's still value at a pretty low CMC on the same turn you're casting it and continuously forward. A big problem in this format is that the turn ratio, the turn count, is rather low, so the chance of this sitting and generating a lot of value throughout a cEDH game in general is pretty low. But it should do something in some decks, like if you're playing Tymna Mardu, or Tymna in general with the color identity of red, and in one of your partners like Krang or Dargo or whatever, and you have a high density of artifacts, this is actually pretty decent because it's going to synergize with Tymna and draw cards with itself as well on artifacts. So in the end, I honestly like it. Not busted, but I could see some people actually picking this up. Then we have a card that is absolutely amazing, or well, have huge potential. Raphael's Technique. So it's 2 red, 4 mana, 6 mana total, for each player may discard their hand and draw 7 cards. But it has Sneak. You may cast this spell for 1 red and 2 mana, which is basically the same mana as Wheel of Fortune, if you also return an unblocked attacker you control to hand during the declared blocker's step. So it's ninjutsu on an instant, which is kinda cool. Now there's a problem here. There's anti-synergy. The concept of returning a creature that wasn't blocked is actually really good. For example, let's just say you attack with an Imperial Recruiter, and no one blocks the Imperial Recruiter because you attack someone that doesn't have blockers. You pay 3 mana, you return the Imperial Recruiter with your Sneak trick, and now you can recast the Imperial Recruiter. Great. The problem is that you're discarding your Imperial Recruiter. So this specific card doesn't synergize great with the Sneak concept of returning your unblocked creature, but the future Sneak cards that we are going to see could be better. However, basically sending your Imperial Recruiter to your discard for drawing 7 cards and yeah, for 3 mana, in my opinion is pretty good. This is like a secondary Wheel of Fortune, or a secondary not secondary Windfall, but secondary Wheel of Misfortune. If you really want to have more wheels, and you do in general have a bunch of creatures, then yeah. So in the end, it's definitely not unplayable, it's just another wheel variant. By the way, you probably won't be playing this if you're playing Adnos, because that 6 CMC is a little bit painful. Then we have Michelangelo the Heart. So for 1 green, 1 generic, you get a 2/1 with Trample. At the beginning of your second main phase, if you attack this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control and create a food token. This might be the best commander partner to Leonardo the Balanced, because Michelangelo is putting a counter on all creatures, but the important part is that on every turn he's creating a food token. So in your second main phase, you are going to trigger Leonardo the Balanced and put a counter on all of your creatures, which creates a guaranteed certainty that you're getting the Leonardo trigger on each of your turns. In the end though, still everything we've already said, pretty bad. Heroes in the action, turtle power. I think that's how the song went. It's actually been quite a while since I watched any Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I wasn't really a huge fan of the Turtle Mutant series. I liked the movies. They were fun and had a lot of action in them. But I never really read the comic books, and I never really watched any of the old TV series in cartoon. I did play some of the computer games, and I might know more about the story from the computer games compared to the cartoons. However, Heroes in the Shell, Turtle Power. We have a 5-color identity, which is basically all 4 brothers joining in as a 5/5 mutant ninja turtle. Vigilance, menace, trample, haste. Whenever one or more mutant ninjas and or turtles you control deal combat damage to a player, put a +1% counter on each of those creatures and draw a card. This is very similar to Tymna, as this can trigger on the equal to the amount of opponents that you have. Each player you connect face with will trigger this. The problem is that it has to be a ninja, turtle or mutant, which isn't impossible. Like, you can play ninja tribal kinda. In the end though, not that great. However, if you're looking for like something that can do player removal and is just 5-color identity for your turbo 5-color deck in general, then yeah. It also draws cards, so like, if you're stacked out, you have nothing better to do, cast this, go to combat, draw a card, and try to player removal, kill the opponent with that annoying stacks piece. Still though, nah. Tournament cEDH doesn't allow you to sit and build value with something like this. It is far too expensive, and it draws just too few cards in general. Sure, you could potentially draw 3 cards a turn, and that's great, but it requires that you're filling your deck with ninjas, and now you're basically building a bad deck. You could be playing 5-color Yuriko the Tiger Shadow, basically viewing Yuriko Tiger Shadow as your main commander, and have her inside the 99 as a hidden commander, and you tutor for her, but I don't think that's good. Those were the cards so far from the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle set. And we're making a part 2 when more cards are released or revealed. The cards we really should be looking out for are the sneak concept, because that returning a ETB value creature to your hand that you can recast together with the effect you get from the sneak on the instant you're casting has potential. So I do think that there could be some cards in the future that they're going to reveal and release from this set, but so far nothing is really breaking the cEDH format yet.